Well, joining me now is the longtime anchor of our Atlanta affiliate, WXIA, and one of their lead political reporters, Jeff Hullinger. Jeff, before I get to sort of the general nature of why we're here, very specifically, Fulton County DA is asking for a special grand jury to investigate the president. A lot of people have been assuming there would be a criminal investigation of what the president did on that infamous phone call with Brad Raffensperger. Yep. A special grand jury, how often does that happen here in Fulton?
It is a rare occurrence here. And Fani Willis is the district attorney of Fulton County. She was elected in 2020.
Oh, new. Okay.
She's new. And she defeated Paul Howard, who had the job for 6 terms. A rather mysterious figure, not available even during the Ray Lewis trial here of 20 years ago. He was very quiet, somewhat difficult to get a hold of if you had any questions. Fani Willis, very different. She is a very high-profile individual who is seen, is heard in this job in a way that we have not seen in a long time in Atlanta.
Do you expect her to be more of a stereotypical, more aggressive DA?
Well, she has been
after this?
She has been that so far. She has been frustrated by the fact she can't get anybody to talk to her. And she believes that the Fulton County District Attorney, even though this is a very unusual occurrence of investigating a then-current U.S. president, but she believes that she is without a conflict of interest, the way that state agencies would be, that she is pure of thought, pure of deed, pure of action.
I have long believed this is actually the most lethal potential legal action against the former president, bigger than what's happening in New York for various reasons because the evidence was so out there in plain sight. Let me get to what I'm talking about here. You heard from those students. What's a bigger problem for the Democratic coalition here? The fact that I talked to these new Biden voters yesterday, independents, were like, talk to me about inflation, talk to me about the supply chain, or these more activist voters who are like, you're not doing anything on voting rights. What's the bigger problem?
I think it's very tough to take a look at a place like Atlanta and Atlanta Metro. And this place is ever evolving. And I'm not just saying the last 30 or 40 years in terms of politically, but I'm saying in the last 3 to 5 years, it looks so different here. Pick a suburban community, a suburban county in Atlanta Metro, and you're looking at what has been a totally whatever has been.
Gwinnett swing? Is it 30 points in 12 years?
Yeah. Well, how about Cobb County, the land of Newt Gingrich, all of a sudden now flirting with going blue? I mean, this is something unheard of. So I always find it interesting when national figures of the Democrats come to town and they do the traditional choreography of going to the HBCUs, going to the King Crypt, and not going to the suburbs. Going to the suburbs is a place that would rattle, I think, the cages of the Republicans here because they have an opportunity to make some serious inroads here, which will, of course, lead them in a different direction as far as what we have seen in the governor's race.
Is Stacey Abrams a little more immune from that disappointment among those that care about voting rights because they don't view her as disappointing them? They view it as Washington failed?
I think she has had so much success nationally and with getting people to vote with her movement that I think she has been somewhat Teflon free of losing to Brian Kemp. You don't hear much of that. You hear, at least publicly, in Atlanta Metro, and Georgia as well, and I think around the country as well, you hear about her great success in getting people to the polls.
What's fascinating, it's interesting you bring up something that I think we haven't mentioned enough. Historically, rematches, the loser usually loses by more the second time. It's a tough thing to do, but you're right, she does not have that scent of, quote, loser.
No, she doesn't have any of that at all.
That helps her a lot.
And I think she is also, obviously, I don't think you have to be Chuck Todd to understand around here that this battle between David Perdue and Brian Kemp is a wild card here. What does that look like for Republicans as they head into November? What is the ramifications of this, which is clearly going to be a knockdown, drag-out kind of battle?
What upside is there for the Republicans?
It's hard to imagine one.
I mean, what is a scenario that does Kemp have to win by 40? And that I
don't know what it means. I don't think anybody does. I think we're in new territory. When you talk about David Perdue and you talk about Brian Kemp, there's not a lot of difference in terms of how they view issues. The issue is Donald Trump here, who stands and looms very large here. But look, Kemp and Perdue, very similar, but different personal styles entirely.
It's that Perdue looks more like the Romney wing of the party, and Kemp looks heavy. Anyway, Jeff, I'm running late. It's good to see you.
Chuck, always great to see you. Thanks, man.
One of my great colleagues.
Thanks.
And thank you all for being with us this hour. We'll be back tomorrow with more Meet the Press Daily. And be sure to tune in to Meet the Press this Sunday. We'll have much more on our trip to Georgia, my conversation with voters. We have a whole bunch more in our NBC News poll, including pessimism or optimism about our ability to bring this country together again. MSNBC's coverage continues with Katie Tur after this break.